everyone, and welcome to my kitchen. So today I'm going to be showing you all how to make a king cake. The king cake is a tradition here in New Orleans and actually throughout many countries throughout the world during the Mardi Gras season. We start making king cakes in New Orleans on King's Day, which is the start of Carnival, and we make them all the way up through Mardi Gras Day. So it's a really fun season to be able to enjoy these king cakes and their different flavors and shapes and such like that. So the king cake also has usually a plastic baby hidden inside, and whoever gets the slice of cake with the baby in it is the one that's supposed to buy the king cake for the next party. So that's really fun. So the three colors on a Mardi Gras king cake are purple, gold, and green. The purple stands for justice, the green stands for faith, and the gold stands for power. All right, let's get started. So the very first part of making the dough is we're going to combine a bunch of ingredients high in fat and get those heated up and combined properly. And later on, we'll be adding those to our dough mixture. This is 16 ounces of full fat sour cream, a quarter cup or a half stick of butter, unsalted, 1 teaspoon of salt. Yes, it's in a cat scoop. Wonderful Christmas present, Granny. And 1/3 cup of white sugar. And we're just gonna combine that on the stovetop and heat it up gently and then let it cool. And to progress with our dough, the next step is to wake up our yeast. So we're going to combine 1 packet of yeast with half a cup of warm water. Since yeast is a living organism, it's nice to give him a little head start on waking up with some warm water. And 2 tablespoons of sugar. That way the yeast can kind of take its time waking up in the warm bath with the sugar. Did you know that eating sugar in the bathtub is a real thing? Not that I would ever do that, of course. So in this mixing bowl, we have our sour cream mixture, which we heated gently on the stove and let cool for 15 minutes to just about room temperature warm, which is just the perfect temperature for adding our yeast mixture into. So we have those 2 in the bowl, as well as 2 eggs and 2 cups of flour. So whenever I put eggs into a mixing bowl, I like to first of all crack them into a separate bowl first, just in case you get any shells. You can pick them out before you add them into the bowl. Also, a good thing to remember when you're measuring out your 2 cups of flour is you want to use a spoon and scoop the flour into the cup instead of using the cup, which is very tempting, to scoop out flour. It just has to do with the density of the flour. You can actually get too much flour if you use the measuring cup as a scoop. So we have all those ingredients in the bowl and we're ready to mix. This is going to be a very luxurious, rich dough. What with all of the fat added in the form of sour cream and butter. It's going to be very tasty, kind of like a brioche. So now the next step is to add 4 more cups of flour. You may wonder why I added 2 cups of flour along with several other ingredients to the dough, and then now 4 more. And that is just for ease of mixing. If you have a stand mixer, of course, feel free to use it during this time. I pretty much, on matter of principle, generally 99% of the time mix everything that I bake by hand. I just like the feel of it. I like to have more control, and it's just my preference. Now I'm going to be kneading the dough. This is going to help develop the glutens that are present in the flour in the dough to help make the dough nice and springy and stretchy and strong, and help the yeast to make it rise. So kneading is pretty easy. You can see that I've coated my workspace with some flour so that the dough does not stick very much to the surface. Just use as little as possible, however, so you don't end up getting too much flour in your dough. Also, I'm wearing gloves. If you don't have gloves, you can rub your hands with some oil or some flour. Either one will work. The general technique for traditionally kneading your dough is just to press down on the dough in the center, pull the top, fold it over, push down again, and give it a quarter turn. If it's sticking at all like mine is, go ahead and add a little bit more flour. But quite honestly, you don't need a recipe or me or anyone to tell you when to stop kneading your dough. You stop kneading it when it stops needing to be kneaded. And when is that, you might ask? That is when you poke the dough and it bounces back, which this dough is doing. So that is a sign of a dough that has been kneaded enough, and it is now time to let it rest and rise for an hour in a greased bowl. And of course, don't go strictly by the hour. It depends on your temperature in your kitchen and in your house. If you live in a warmer, steamier climate, like here in New Orleans, it'll probably take about an hour. If you live in a cold climate and your kitchen is cold and your house is cold, it's going to take a lot longer. In that case, I would advise coming up with a warm environment for your dough to rise, or you might be waiting for quite some time. I have accomplished that in the past by just turning my oven on and then opening the oven door and turning it off and letting the steam from inside the oven kind of heat the top of the oven area, and I'll rest my bowl with the dough in it on top of my warmed up oven top. So you can come up with different scenarios like that. So into the greased bowl it goes. You can make your king cakes filled or unfilled. I say, why make an unfilled king cake when you can make a filled one? That's just how I feel, however. So there are all different types of filling. Today I'm going to be making a praline pecan filling for this king cake. For the praline pecan filling, I'm going to use 2 blocks of cream cheese, 1/4 cup of dark brown sugar, 2 teaspoons cinnamon, 2 teaspoons of real vanilla extract, and 1/2 cup of white sugar. So I have the dough rolled out pretty thin. I have 4 different sections. That's just because I'm making 2 different king cakes, each with 2 long pieces that I can kind of twist together in a ring circle, just for looks. So I have the first of 4 pieces rolled out, and I'm going to smear about 1/4 of the filling on top, and then cover it with chopped pecans. So as you can see, after dividing the dough into 4 pieces, I covered each of the 4 pieces with the filling and a generous amount of pecans, and then rolled them up into 4 of these long pieces. And now from there, you can go one of 2 ways. You can either keep the pieces as they are and form them into a round shape just as they are, and I'll show you kind of how to make the ends stick here in a second. Or you can do what I've done with 2 of the pieces, which is kind of wrap them gently, twist them around each other to form almost like a braid before forming the pieces into a round circle. King cakes are always round or oval, at least here in New Orleans, and that just signifies the shape of a crown. So to get your end pieces to stick to one another, just dip your fingertips into a small amount of water and kind of moisten the ends of the dough that you want to stick together. Then overlap those pieces however it pleases you, so that they're all touching one another in some form or fashion. Okay, time to let them rise 1 more hour. So here is the finished king cake after being baked at 350 degrees for about 25 minutes. It's in a round shape and looks absolutely scrumptious. So let's get to work glazing it and putting sugar on it. We're just going to be making a simple glaze. I have here 3 cups of powdered sugar, 3 tablespoons of melted butter, 3 tablespoons of milk, and 2 tablespoons of vanilla extract. And now for the baby. Ta-da! And that is a Mardi Gras king cake. Thanks for watching.